Hello, friends, fans, foes, and everything in between. I'm Nathan Marchand, and welcome to the latest episode of But I Digress, where sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain. That's a tagline I have not said in a long time, and I feel like I need to actually bring it back. Oh man, brings back memories of a hot minute where I really thought I could become a YouTuber. Yeah, it's just funny how all that works out. This was admittedly a little impromptu. If you saw my YouTube short where I was sitting in my car doing an out of theater reaction to Tron Ares, then I said like, well, you know what? I feel like I should do some sort of like a live stream or some sort of longer video about that. Well, it's happening, and you have this guy to blame. I mean, thank for it. Host of the Power Chamber podcast, Rob Buck.
Greetings, programs.
Oh, I should have got mine. I have an a legacy style identity disc frisbee. I should have got it out. I also, believe it or not, I have a Tron cosplay that lights up, and I guess it kind of glows in the dark. I'm wearing the shirt. This is actually a glow in the dark shirt, but it doesn't have enough light at the moment to really do it. But I had to make sure I wore the shirt to the thing, just like I did when I saw the movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, this is actually my old dog. May he rest in peace, Apollo. This was one of his frisbees, and so I was like, I'm just gonna grab it. We're gonna go.
Yeah. Speaking of dogs, I saw another movie today. I had the day off of work. So I grabbed my brother because he works second shift, and he's my roommate. So I said, "Hey, let's go to the movies," and we saw Good Boy.
Oh, I've been wanting to see that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, it's an indie horror movie where the protagonist is a dog, and the dog is protecting his owner from a malevolent supernatural force in the house. So it's a house in the middle of nowhere, so it's kind of a haunted house story. It was very fascinating, and if you go see it, stay through the credits. There is a post credit, but it's not an epilogue to the movie or a tease for another movie or something silly like that. No, it's a little behind the scenes documentary, because where they show you a bit about how they got that dog to perform, because it was the director's dog. The dog's name is Indy because he loves Indiana Jones, and he tricked and they spent 3 years making this movie with just a couple of people. It's like a family project, basically. They spent 400 days filming, and they had to basically trick the dog into giving a performance. It's amazing. But we're not here to talk about that.
We named the dog Indy.
We named the dog Indiana. I can do a Sean Connery.
Yes.
You're the man now, dog. Name that Connery movie.
That's what Tron needed. More Sean Connery.
More Sean Connery. Needed a lot of things. But anyway, as I was saying, you basically out of nowhere, because I realized we hadn't actually talked a whole lot. We've known each other for a while. Never met in person, even though we only live like 2 hours away, which I feel like is a bit of a travesty.
Right.
But this is actually, it's not the first time we've collaborated, but it's the first time we've collaborated on something that I do.
Yep.
You've had me on your podcast a couple of times, it was primarily a Power Rangers podcast, but you just out of the blue got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I just saw Tron Ares. If you do a review, I want to be on it." I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't know why he feels so passionate about this, but I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, this was my thing. So my day-to-day job is I work at a movie theater. I work at my local movie theater. And so on my breaks since Thursday night, I've been stealing 30 minutes at a time to see Tron. And it kept me intrigued enough, and we'll get into how I feel about the thing as a whole in a bit, but it kept me intrigued enough to always go back. And I would be timing out which theater was showing which part I had left off on. So each break, I would get the next part of the movie. And I finished it yesterday, and I saw your short, and I was like, okay, we need to talk because there's something here, but the movie isn't grasping it.
Yeah. And that's the most disappointing part. And clearly, this is what's baffling about this movie is the reception that it's been getting. It has flopped at the box office. And the stupid thing is they're trying to blame COVID for it. And I'm like, guys, maybe up to, maybe 2021, 2022, you could have gotten away with that. We are well past when this is anything close to a justifiable reason for anything. So I don't buy it, but it flopped at the box office, which people were kind of expecting. I went when the trailers first started dropping. Before that, I wasn't entirely sure. I wanted another Tron movie. I liked the other two, particularly Legacy. I've been a massive fan of Legacy. I listened to the Tron Legacy soundtrack by Daft Punk was one of the last great Hollywood film scores we've gotten in a long time. It was like that in Pacific Rim. And then after that, it's serviceable at best. We haven't really had a soundtrack that jumped at people for the most part. Just some occasional tracks here and there. So I wanted another Tron movie. They were originally going to they're going to have I can't remember his name. The director of Legacy, because he went on to direct Top Gun Maverick, among other things.
Right.
And he wanted to do more movies. The story I always heard was that he wanted Legacy to be the start of a trilogy. Either that or he was intending on making Tron a trilogy. So he was going to make one more movie, then we would have a Tron trilogy. I don't know. It was one or the other. But it ended up not happening. And you want to know why it didn't happen? Even though Legacy did pretty fine. It wasn't truly a flop, but it was a little bit of an underperforming movie, but it's always been niche. Let's be honest. It was the failure of Tomorrowland.
Yeah. Yeah, they got
which
cold
I
feet.
do think is a little unfair because I liked Tomorrowland too.
I haven't watched Tomorrowland in a while. I remember liking it.
Yeah. So that's why they ended up. Thank you in the chat. Thank you. My co-host on Henshin Power V3 and one of my of the patrons for the Monster Island Film Vault, Jake Hambrick, Joseph Kaczynski. That's who it was. Top Gun Maverick is by far his biggest success. He also did a Tom Cruise movie called Oblivion, which I also liked. It was weird, but I also liked that one. Anyway, so Tomorrowland flopped. Disney, for some odd reason, equated Tron to Tomorrowland, so they ended up canning it. But then Legacy continued to garner a cult following. And then they're like, well, let's try this again. But then basically paid no attention to anything from Legacy, which we will get into. So that's kind of the background on this. And then you had the weird choice of casting Jared Leto.
Yeah.
The worst screen Joker ever. And just all around weirdo. We're not going to get into all of his controversies, but all around weirdo.
Yeah, no, there's enough in this movie to make fun of him for. We don't need to.
Yeah. So the trailers came out. That first trailer, if I had been a little smarter, I would have done a reaction to it, like I did for the Fantastic Four trailer, but I just didn't get around to it. But I was willing to give it a chance based on that trailer. I like the other trailers, but as time kept getting, 9 Inch Nails was doing the soundtrack, and I liked what I was hearing of the soundtrack. Like, I was like, okay, maybe it's not exactly what I would want, but at least might be good. It was not. But what baffles me is that it's getting mediocre reviews with critics. But now, mind you, I don't give any of these any of them. I have lost faith in every single review aggregate site on the internet. I don't trust IMDb. I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. I trust none of them. All right. But for the sake of argument, the user, to use the Tron terminology, score on Rotten Tomatoes is surprisingly high. It's like 86, something like that, 86%.
Yeah.
But it flopped at the box office. And apparently there are people who are standing this movie hard. And I don't get it unless they're just gross Disney fans or something. Because like Disney fans are a little ridiculous.
Yeah, just a little bit. To go back a little bit of why Jared Leto was in this, there was actually a article done by either the director or the screenwriter, and I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, but it came down to they had a plan for Tron 3, which would continue with Legacy. Jared Leto was attached to be the villain, Ares. Now, Ares, he clung on to, and he liked the character so much that he was like, hey, I want to work on possibly a spin-off movie after this one. Well, for whatever reason, they ended up pulling the plug on Tron 3, and Leto basically spearheaded and offered to produce this one. So primarily, it sounds like it's a passion project for Leto, and that's why he is our protagonist. Having said that, I feel like, as I'm sure we'll get on to, there were a lot of rewrites that could have been done, and just a lot of things not explained.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's what this live stream is going to be. We're going to talk a bit about the movie, so it'll be something of a movie review, and then because the shtick of of this channel is to not just do movie reviews, but talk about writer things, give writer advice. I'm going to give a PowerPoint where I talk about 7 lessons that I think writers should learn from the failure of this movie. And then I'm going to give my very extensive script doctoring of it because that's what I do.
Sounds
but
good,
no,
Doctor.
the director is Joachim. I hope I'm saying that right. Joachim Ronning.
Oh.
He's a foreign fella. Yeah, he is from Norway, and his past credits. What a pedigree he has! I mean, admittedly, Joseph Kosinski had never directed a movie before. He did Legacy, but this guy's pedigree includes Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Nothing but hits with this guy.
Whew. I never saw Maleficent.
Yeah, and then everything else is a bunch of movies. He has a handful of credits, and most of these are movies I've never heard of.
Yep.
Oh, Young Woman in the Sea. That's another one.
That's the Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley, where she's playing the British swimmer who swam across the ocean, which is a true story and actually happened, but for what I understand, that kind of misrepresented her a little bit, as Hollywood is wont to do.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It happens.
Yeah. And then our screenwriter, I'm curious. I say they give 2. Okay. I there's nothing on at least Wikipedia about the screenwriter, Jesse Wigatow,
Yeah.
but they credit him and one other guy with the story.
Yeah, that's always fun when they're like, okay, but the story was this guy, but the real script was this guy.
Well, it's the same guy. The screenwriter is also one of the guys credited with story.
Right. But to the other guy, that's just like, oh, but he was part of the story. He didn't. I've always thought that was fascinating. That the attribution to someone that might have just like spitballed hey, what if he was, what if he smoked? And that sometimes can warrant you get a story by credit.
Yeah. Now, I'll start us off by bringing up the things that I did like about this movie, because this movie's not a complete and utter failure. Trust me, I have seen movies that fail in every category. Yeah. Well, yes, Jake, that is one of this movie's biggest problems. It's a Tron movie with no Tron.
Mm-hmm.
The way I heard somebody describe it is that it would be like making a Batman movie that has no Batman, but it follows, I don't know, Robin and Batgirl or something. It's bizarre. I don't get it. Disney is just treating this like a brand because that's all they know how to do anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a brand. Anyway, there are the three things I will say that this movie gets right, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Rob. The soundtrack, which might be the best thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord. I still think I prefer the Daft Punk soundtrack a bit. I've listened to that thing so many times. It's one of my favorite albums to go to. That and the remix album for it. It's called Tron Legacy Reconfigured. I listen to those all the time when I write. It's one of my favorite go-tos, like I said. So, yeah, prefer that one a little bit more, but this Nine Inch Nails soundtrack is very apropos for the tone of this movie. And then I would say the action sequences are excellent. And the effects are good. It visually, this looks like a sequel to Legacy.
Oh, absolutely.
It very much still has the Legacy aesthetic in it, which is probably the most prominent Tron Legacy anything in this movie is the visuals.
Yeah.
And because we are giving spoilers for this entire thing, they do go back to the original grid and admittedly do a pretty good job of replicating the look of the original movie.
Absolutely. I had just, as soon as I got home from finishing it, I watched the original Tron, and it's nearly identical. Right down to and like you said, spoilers, the crack that they throw one of the computer light cycles into, and that's still there. So I thought that was a really nice touch. Visually, just not even the effects. The effects were amazing. All the fight choreography with the light cycle beams of sliding across them, elbowing people into them. I thought, was fun.
But there's a major problem with how they handle that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. But I like the small little aesthetic touches, like our other main character, Eve. Her jacket that she wears for most of the movie is white with blue trim, like the original Tron. So I thought, okay, that's a nice little. We don't really see her too much in the grid, so having her as kind of like this is how you identify I am the protagonist in this movie.
Yeah, which, by the way, I want to throw this out there. I know I'm kind of shouting into the ether with anything I do with this, but saying that you don't like Greta Lee or well, at least not you don't like her performance, or you don't more specifically that you don't like Eve Kim as a character, because there are some people when they that say they don't like this character. Stop throwing around this whole Asian hate thing. Please stop it. Yeah. Especially in the in this live stream, there's not a shred of racism here. All right. If we are criticizing this character or Greta Lee's performance, has nothing to do with that. And to accuse us of Asian hate, if anyone tries to do that, do you realize how incredibly stupid that is? The two of us have built brands off of consuming Japanese media. If we hated Asian people, we're the worst racists ever.
Yes, that goes double for the power chamber, which we are also beaming into. And I have Japanese in my family. So yeah, definitely it's not welcome here.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, not only isn't that welcome here, but that accusation doesn't make sense. I've gotten a little tired of the media resorting to just dismissing criticisms like this and just attributing it to some sort of istophobia or whatever. It's like, stop it, okay? Stop it. It's an ad hominem, and when you throw ad hominems around, you automatically lose the debate, and you can just shut up. All right. Yeah, I'm just saying. Anyway, I just want to shut that down right now because that's not the case here. Yes, now, admittedly, I didn't hate the character. I understand why other people don't like her, but I wasn't bothered by her. But
right.
But anyway, no, you were saying about the.
I don't remember, but going on the.
You were talking about like the little details.
Oh, the little details. Yes. Particularly because once I finished this movie, like I said, I watched Tron and Tron Legacy again, and the small nods to calling back different turn of phrases from both movies. There's a line where Ares pilots, or no, it's when they steal the car at the gas station, and he makes the comment, "It's all in the wrist," which, having watched the other two now, I'm like, that's a nice little thing. The fact that there's a Ducati motorcycle in all three of these movies. Yeah, so it's the little things. Does that make a good movie overall? No, but it is a nice touch to be able to go, oh, hey, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I do enjoy Easter eggs, but I'll save that for the criticism portion of it. But let's just say I think there was some nostalgia baiting going on in here. And yeah, but we'll save that for later. But yeah, but I'll let me add one more thing to this. The costuming. You were bringing it up. The costuming in this is great. Again, visually, this feels like a sequel to Legacy.
Yes.
It almost feels like they just went and raided the closet where they kept all of the Legacy props and costumes and just brought them back out.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, for sure. So there definitely was that going for it. So visually, it's appealing. Auditorily, it's appealing. The action is great. I do feel like they up the ante with the action in this. And I feel like that's just what they've consistently done that with all three of these movies. You know, it keeps getting that part keeps getting better.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do appreciate that they switch things up a little bit, which is what I was hoping for a direct Legacy sequel. And we spend more time in the real world than we do in the grid. And now it's a reversal. We have grid characters coming to the real world, and they're doing some of the same crazy shenanigans that they do on the grid, but now it's in the real world, which does change things up. We have that great chase scene where we see the cop car get cut in half, which is in the trailer.
Right.
So that is different. Good job there. You know, we see a recognizer in the real world. That's kind of wild.
That
You know,
shot was amazing.
yeah. And again, I'm going to save this for the criticism portion. This movie wants to comment on things like, well, it's, you know, we're using 3D printing, which wasn't really a thing when Legacy was out.
Right.
And it's at least trying to talk about AI.
Yeah.
Because AI is a big topic right now. Because now we've gotten AI to the point where regular people can use it. AI has been a concept in science fiction forever. I mean, and with Tron, it goes all the way back to the first movie because you have the MCP, the Master Control Program. That was an AI. You know, that's all the way back to 1982. So AI has been part of Tron for a long time. But you know, now it's this big topic of debate. Not debate, but the big topic of discussion. So I give it it's trying. That's what's so irritating is that you can see it. It's there.
Right.
But it's not enough. You're muted, Rob.
Yeah, sorry. Just this movie at the beginning had me with the Julian Dillinger presentation and introducing the conflict and why he's out on a mission. This idea of a finite time limit with programs in the real world fascinates me. You can take it back to not Bill Gates, Steve Jobs with the Apple II. When he introduced it with his presentation, it was literally just, I just needed to say hello. We can worry about making it work later. I just need to say hello.
Mm-hmm.
But I will allow you to talk for a second. My cat is trying to get somewhere. If you will excuse me one minute.
It always happens. The cat comes in and ruins the live stream. But yes, I'll just go over some of the comments that we have here in the chat while we're waiting for Rob to come back. So Edwin Gonzalez says, be honest, how much of Tron Uprising was in this movie? 0% or 001? Goose egg. I'm just imagining the worst Kingdom Hearts Tron revisit. Sora or Yuzora meeting Ares. Yeah, they might try. I don't know. Let me see. And then we got some more here from Jake, who's trying to be nice to the movie. I like the light cycles, but the ones from Legacy were perfect. Agreed.
Yeah, I would also agree. First off, make sure your cats don't have access to like little nooks and crannies that you have to like pry them out of.
Yeah, for sure.
Friendly tip.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. He liked Evan Peters as it's Julian Dillinger specifically, because we got to make distinctions between, there's a lot of Dillingers in these movies, and we have two in this one. And I'm kind of mixed on Julian Dillinger in this, but
yeah, I wish they would have distinguished what his relationship to Edward Dillinger Jr. is from Legacy.
Yeah, played by Cillian Murphy in movie 2.
Yeah, even if it was just a throwaway line, like we'll get to what could be improved, but if
Julian is supposed to be Edward Dillinger Sr.'s, so the villain played by David Warner in the original movie, it's supposed to be his grandson.
Right. So even if it was just like a nephew or a cousin to Cillian Murphy's character from Legacy, that's fine. Especially if we establish that one works at NCOM, this one in the family business with a different company. But there's a lot of, it's one thing if like the Superman movie does it, where you can just drop off people and a comic book person will get that. And a non-comic book person will want to know more and ask a comic book person. So you don't really have to. Superman has been around forever. You can just drop people into a Superman story.
Yeah. we've gotten
can't
to the
do
point
that.
now where there are just certain, if we're talking superheroes, there are certain superheroes you don't need to explain their origin. Either we've seen it a ton of times in movies already, or their origins are just so culturally ubiquitous, it's unnecessary. We
Exactly.
all know the story, the origin of Superman. We all know the origin of Spider-Man. We all know the origin of Batman. We don't need to see it every movie. We get it.
Exactly.
You know, but but there are some characters you need to do that. A lot of characters you need to do that because they're not nearly as ubiquitous. Nobody outside of, well, nerds for the most part. And since I lived in the nerd subculture most of my life, he was ubiquitous to me, but not to everybody else. No, not a lot of people outside of nerd culture knew who Iron Man was until that movie came out. And then what did the movie do? Gave you the origin of Iron Man. And now he's a household name. You probably don't have to do the Iron Man origin again.
Nope. And this one, exactly. There is precedent when you are familiar with a particular form of media that you don't really need to introduce so much. Another good example, the last 3 Harry Potter movies, just assume that you've read the books. And there are, like, there's a moment where Dobby the house elf says Mr. Weasley to Ron and says, "It's great to see you again. But I've just done a marathon of all these movies, Mr. Marchand, and there's never a movie apart from that scene where they've interacted." They do it all the time in the books. But it's a precedent of we expect you to know certain things before you walk in. And this movie did not have the material to do that.
No, it did not. Especially since, well, again, we'll save that for the criticism portion. And I want to say one of the other things is I've been listening fairly frequently to the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack for this. I will probably end up actually buying a physical copy of this soundtrack because I own physical copies of the other two. I'd be half tempted for the Legacy soundtrack. I should probably go back and get the original as well because the original soundtrack's pretty good too. I found that it's got music by Journey. What the heck? I didn't realize that until more recently. But I might even go get the vinyl. I'm not normally a vinyl person, but they put all the bonus tracks on the vinyl version that came out a few years ago. And I had to get digital copies of all of those. Yeah. But anyway, the soundtrack, when you just listen to the soundtrack on its own, it really is the first Hollywood soundtrack I've heard in years that really stands out. Like this soundtrack is great. And it's incredibly evocative. And like you just read the track listings and listen, because some of the tracks have lyrics in them. And you can get a sense of some thematic meat that the music is trying to get at. And it's not in the movie.
No. There are so many wide just action set pieces or just pieces of just driving where it's for the song. And
yeah,
it's just a nice visual music video for you for 2 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the joke was for Legacy that it was a 2-hour music video for the new Daft Punk album, which I think is a little mean. And I think people are starting to walk back some of their criticisms of Legacy. And now that Ares is out, but the best joke that I read, it was a YouTube comment on the album, the new soundtrack album. And somebody said, "Oh, yay, a new Nine Inch Nails album. And it comes with a bonus movie."
Yeah, the best comments I've seen walking out of the theater are the best character in that movie was the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack.
Yeah, man, seriously. That was the music. Like I said, the music is astonishing, and I will happily buy that soundtrack, and I will start listening to that when I'm writing because the music is great. I can't say that enough. Music is the best part. It really is the best part of this movie. I can't praise that soundtrack enough.
And what I like about it the most, and another YouTuber I watched, Jeremy Johns, pointed this out, is that they had taken bits of the main theme from Legacy and
Mm-hmm.
incorporated it into the music. So, and to him, and I completely agree with this, that made it a proper sequel soundtrack wise to Legacy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's congruency with the world.
Yeah, but
Um,
notice that it's only with the aesthetic choices, we're talking visuals and music, where we get anything resembling a continuation of Legacy.
yeah.
We're talking here. I think this, unless you have more to say, I think we can transition into criticizing this movie.
Let's see. Do I have anything more? Positively, I'm glad we got more Tron. Uh, at all. It's a
Yeah,
property that deserves to be expanded upon, and it just has a very bad luck at the box office whenever a movie comes.
yeah, that is true. But here's the thing. And this is one of the things that bothers me about how too many people operate, especially when it comes to movies. All the things that we've been talking about that we liked, as far as I care, are the trappings. Everything in a movie needs to be in service to a story, and the story is the script. So the music, the action, the special effects, the acting, all of that. Although I would say acting is also part of the story. It's actually part of the story because they're taking the words on the page. It's not like a novel. It's not like a prose story where the words are doing all the work. The actors have to do a lot of the work. It's not just the words on the page. That is where this movie fails. It's like a beautiful sports car whose engine has not been tuned up.
Yep.
Because that's really what this boils down to. It is a beautiful sports car with a broken engine.
Yeah.
Which just begs the question, what is the point?
That's a great analogy. Like that is the perfect way to describe this. It's like it's like allowing someone to drive your car when it's a stick shift and they have no idea how to drive stick. It's a beautiful car, but they don't know how to navigate it, and it's just damaging what you had worked so hard on.
Yeah, it just does. It does not work. And if your script is not good, you can dress it up as much as you want. It's not going to work. I know some people say that the original Star Wars was saved in the editing room, and John Williams' music really elevates it. And I do agree. The John Williams score in Star Wars does elevate the movie. But Star Wars was good. It still had a good core, I should say. The John Williams music just took it to another level.
Completely.
The problem is that this script is not there. It is a mess. And I'm going to be honest, I find most of the acting to be okay at best. Probably the best actor in this is Jeff Bridges because, yes, he's in this movie. He's barely in this movie, and he's not even the real Kevin Flynn. He's like a Kevin Flynn something. They don't explain what he is.
Yeah, they do something to the effect of I can kind of understand what it is, where he's kind of the final firewall to get to this permanence code.
Just
But
so weird.
Again, they're not explaining anything. They just want you to understand it.
Yeah, they want it to sound kind of spiritual, but it's so nebulous that I don't, because the movie does not, it's like the screenwriter could not be bothered to come up with something.
Yeah. It's the most frustrating thing is when you can see the problems in a story. It's one thing to be like, there's something about this movie, I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something that's not gelling right. And for this movie, though, the issues are so blatant, it's like,
yeah,
how does anyone else not see this?
yeah. So you have that. The thing that also makes this a little bit frustrating, and I've heard arguments for and against this, and that's whether or not something needs to be evaluated as being part of a series. Because there are things about being part of a series that can bring something down, as opposed to just taking it on its merits in isolation. And you know what? If this had just been a straight up reboot, or wasn't called Tron, I mean, I would probably still say it's mediocre, maybe a slightly above average as is. But as a Tron sequel, because this is not a reboot. They want this to be kind of a reboot, but they also want it to be a sequel. But I feel like their motivations for making this a sequel are kind of cynical. I'm going to be honest. And we've seen too much of this in the last few years. Remember how I mentioned about nostalgia baiting? This is readily apparent when we visit the original grid. I should be excited about this. And I'm not saying that they don't give it some narrative justification. But ultimately, it just felt like an excuse to throw a bone to people who are fans of the franchise, particularly the first movie, to make it look like they care. And to use a Power Ranger analogy, and you know where I'm going with this, and you're going to appreciate this. This, my friend, is the Megaforce effect.
Yeah, it is completely Megaforce.
It is empty nostalgia. Now, I would say Megaforce is even more empty, but it's still the Megaforce effect. We're going to throw this in here because it's like jingling. You know what? I'm going to do a visual aid. It's jingling the key. See, look. It's the original grid. Oh, look. It's bit. You like bit? Yes, I do. But you're just throwing him in here as an excuse.
Yeah, it was nice seeing the original grid because it's like, oh, that's cool. But there were so many missed opportunities to grab a hold of the story that came before and carry it forward.
Yeah.
And,
sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was just going to say, unlike what my former co-host on the Power Trip, Michael Hamilton, I only say former because, the Power Trip's just not really going right now, unless Fletcher the White Dragon finally gets released.
Allegedly.
I have opinions. Anyway, so many opinions. But Michael maybe have jokingly would say like, oh, you hate nostalgia. I was like, no, I do not hate nostalgia. I hate empty nostalgia. If you want to do something meaningful with what came before, I am all for that. As long as you are still moving forward as opposed to trying to stay in the past and you're unable to get beyond it. That's where I have an issue, and we've seen far too much of that either these Hollywood screenwriters are just not creative enough to get away from it, so they have to basically steal other people's stuff, or they're just cynically trying to appeal to nostalgia so people will give them money. No. I'm done with that.
This was, especially since, so full transparency, I hadn't watched Tron or Tron Legacy in about 10 years. And I watched Ares, and I was fully prepared to be like, oh, it's not that bad, man. It had some references, and, I liked it. But then I rewatched the first two. And the more I watched it, the more potential I saw in what could have been, and the angrier I got at Ares.
Yeah. And I don't blame you for that. Since we're talking about Ares, we have our title character, Ares. In concept, I'm not opposed to Ares. I will even admit, the first scene in this movie where we have Julian Dillinger communicating with him in what looks like a modern avatar version of the MCP head, and he calls him Master Control, and I'm like, ooh, I think I'm liking this right now. I'm liking this. I like where we're going. And I liked the aesthetic we had there, although it should be noted, and this is not original to me, although I kind of felt it when I was watching this. Not only do we spend less time in the grid, we see less of any of these grids. They seem remarkably empty.
Very empty.
The grids. I mean, the grid in the original. Both the grids in both of the original movies, they felt alive. There were people there. There were programs. They were doing things.
There were insurance programs that were just like, I'm really excited about.
And we had tyrants and their minions and people going to clubs and the games, and these worlds felt alive. It was amazing. These worlds felt lived in. It was great. Here, it's like especially in the Dillinger grid, it just feels like they made an entire city for 3 people.
Yeah.
And I was confused at first. I'm like, is this the grid from Legacy? What happened? Why is this guy in charge?
Yeah.
What?
I like the idea of the Dillinger organization being like, oh, we can make a server and a grid and have it. Maybe they don't see that it looks to the audience that it's the Legacy grid, but they're like, well, we can have a private server too and do all this, and it just happens to look like Flynn's grid. I can buy that. But again, there's so much not explained.
Yeah, which is a problem. But let's talk about Ares. The real world stuff aside with Leto, I've never been a big fan of Leto. I for sure did not like his Joker. Good grief, I hated his Joker so much. Gah. However, I've seen it, although I will admit, the one scene that he plays the Joker in the Snyder cut of Justice League, I did like him there. The scene doesn't really mean anything in the long run, but I did like him there. And he had a supporting role in Blade Runner 2049. I did like him there. Admittedly, after that, I haven't really seen anything. I did not watch Morbius for the lulls and the memes. At some point, I probably should. Maybe I know people are trying to do the same thing with Madam Web, and I'm just like, I don't know if the memes are worth it for that one.
Nope, it is not. They are not worth it.
But beyond that, even though I gotta say, if there's a superhero or just a comic book character that Jared Leto should play. On paper, it should be Morbius. And they screwed that up too.
Yeah.
And they screwed that up too. But so all of that aside, I think he's fine in this. His performance is kind of flat, but I think that's the idea. Oh, but even by the end, he doesn't seem too different in terms of personality.
My issue is, and maybe it's just the rate at which the MCP of Tron 1 could compute and calculate and get smarter. My issue with Ares was that he showed too much emotion too quickly. In the first scene, it takes him so long to process that it's raining, to analyze what exactly is happening with the atmosphere, and that why is there water falling from the sky, and then he makes a joke about, well, I hope you brought your umbrella. And then by the end of the movie, he's being sarcastic and sighing and cracking smiles. And I felt it was too soon to bring emotion into him.
Well, that's another problem that this movie has, which goes back to the script. The dialogue is at points bad and at more points plain weird. Like, there are lines and line delivery, which goes back to the acting in this. I'm just like, well, that was a choice.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking back on like the first movie in particular, where they're throwing in computer jargon, which at the time was going over most people's heads. We're used to it now as modern audiences. They throw these computer terms around and we're like, oh yeah, I know what all of that is. Even if you don't work in IT, you know what it is, because computers are that ubiquitous now. So the original movie was ahead of its time. They toned that down in Legacy so they could focus on other things, but there's still really interesting sci-fi concepts going on in this.
Oh yeah. There's a particular line in Tron 1, the older programmer that's friends with Alan and Laura and everybody. He makes a comment of, oh, that'll be the day when computers start thinking for themselves, people will stop. And that's such a, especially watching it in 2025, that is such a line.
Yeah. And think about what the motivation was for Flynn in that first movie. He is attempting to retrieve intellectual property, not money, not something tangible. Dillinger stole his video game, and he is intent on proving that his video game was stolen. Now, you could argue that that means he's going to get money in the long run, but it's still about intellectual property theft. Wow.
Yep.
Again, kind of ahead of its time.
And the only way we're made to be worried about the MCP as more than just a corporate program is he makes one little mention of, I might be targeting the Pentagon next.
Yeah. Now, because we do know that the MCP, that's the thing. It starts off with, I just want to prove that I made this video game. And then it turns into, oh crap, the AI wants to take over the world. Do I have the button? Wait, where's the button? I am really delaying the bit here.
Of course.
There you go. It took me a second. I have a new soundboard, and I'm still not quite used to it.
It's all good. Time moves different on the grid, as we've learned.
Yeah. A different kind of grid than the one we normally talk about. But anyway. Yeah. So it ends up turning into something bigger. But, and in the second movie, we know Clue has aspirations of going bigger because he's a tyrant too. But in this one, here's where we start running into problems. And I'll get into this a bit more with what I say writers can learn from this. And that is, this movie is not consistent, not only with the Tron world's rules, but even what it establishes within itself. And that is a surefire way to lose your audience if you make rules, break them, and don't justify it. So the whole premise of this movie is the grid characters can't exist in the real world for longer than 29 minutes. How was Cora able to survive at the end of Legacy?
When you get to your script doctoring, I had a thought about that.
I did as well. But but that's like a larger thing. That's a larger thing. Here's the one that it contradicts within itself. The beams, particularly from the light cycles, they use the beam attack, these beam things in a lot of things, which is cool. Visually and technologically, that's a really cool idea. It comes off of weapons now, and I mean, they were in Legacy, they were using it on aircraft and things. So it's coming from other vehicles. And this one, we get missiles, like tracking missiles that do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of cool here. Yeah, this I like this. But here's the problem. In every other Tron anything that I have seen, those things are basically white hot energy. You touch it, you disintegrate. You are dead. Apparently, they now magically turn into polystyrene. Because there are two incidents in this movie where something or somebody hits one of those light beams and they just physically interact with it. There's during one of the chase scenes, they make a slanted beam and a car goes over it like a ramp. No explanation. And then later on, those missiles I was talking about, and this makes sense. Like, you could this was such an easy fix. This was such an easy fix. You have the missiles go around like a tornado and basically make a cylindrical wall around her so she can't get away. Cool. Except she runs into it like it's a wall and pounds on it. No explanation.
Yeah. I mean,
that sounds like a nip. I know this sounds like a nitpick, people, but there's no explanation for it. And when you write science fiction and fantasy, you have to make rules and stick to them. And if you're going to break them, you have to justify breaking them. I'm thinking of, I'm thinking of like Full Metal Alchemist. This is like an example I'm just going to grab out of the air right here. Okay, the anime and manga Full Metal Alchemist. One of the things they established is that if you're an alchemist, you need to make a transmutation circle in order to use alchemy. All right? Whether it's on the ground or on an article of clothing or something that you have, that's what you need in order to make the alchemy happen. Unless you are our protagonists, who can do alchemy without transmutation circles. That's what makes them special. And the reason why that is some very unhappy things. And they pay dearly for it. It's part of the world. Okay? It's what makes the story the story. This doesn't do that.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. The other example I was thinking of where it does it perfectly is tying into Power Rangers, of course, the Once and Always special. Mm-hmm. Men cannot morph because it's established in the first episode you cannot use your power for personal gain.
Mm-hmm.
So she is unable to be a Ranger. So keeping that thread 30 years later is awesome. But yeah,
at least with that power set, you can't do that.
Right. but yeah, I hadn't even thought about the light beams. I mean, I guess you could argue that they de-res because they're hitting them at terminal velocity most of the time when they're in a chase or flying around and bumping into it constantly. But yeah, no, the more you said it, the more I was like, wait, they shouldn't be able to just baseball slide across like it's a generally.
Yeah. It's just that didn't work for me. I found the performance of Evan Peters to be. I see too many villains like this anymore. Even Lex Luthor from the new Superman movie. He starts off great, but then by the end of it, like you get about halfway through the movie and suddenly he is losing his freaking mind. And by the end, he's literally crying. And I'm like, this feels a little much. I'm not saying that he can't be frustrated, but I don't need him flying off the handle. I prefer my Lex Luthor to be a little more stoic. And if he does have an emotional outburst, it's a heck of a lot more controlled than this.
Yeah. I mean,
because there are points where Julian just turns into a petulant child and says really dumb things, like he's like, "I'm awesome." Like, did you have to point that out? Did you just own the noobs on Call of Duty or something over here? What? This is a gamer reacting. This is not a corporate supervillain.
Yeah, he definitely screams a petulant child, tech bro.
Which maybe that was the point, but like we keep getting villains like this. We had Kylo Ren in the Star Wars sequels, which I was willing to give him a chance because I'm like, well, maybe the whole idea with Kylo Ren is that he's supposed to parallel Rey, where he develops into a proper supervillain, a proper Sith, where Rey develops into a proper Jedi. Nobody thought that far ahead, unfortunately. And the more I think about the Star Wars sequels, the more they start coming down for me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Death trilogy.
Yeah, so
we're just gonna kill all of our old heroes. It's fine.
and then we had here's the crazy thing. I remember that Gillian Anderson was supposed to be in this, and I spent most of the movie trying to find her, only to find out later, wait, she was the mom. That was her.
Yeah,
she looks really different.
Oh man, and I just her. I wish she had an arc. I'd say her arc was bad, but that would imply that she had one.
Well, I think the idea was that she was supposed to be the voice of reason while her son is flying off the handle. And it just doesn't quite work.
No, yeah, I would have much rather it be her egging him on and possibly he's not doing enough and she's the one that escalates things. I would have personally liked it if Julian had a barrier, like just this part's too much. Like kidnapping Eve to get the permanence code is one thing, but when Athena starts 3D printing the recognizer and all of her army to go after Eve because she was told no matter the cost, I wanted him to be more like hesitant about it than he actually was, and for maybe his mother to be like, you didn't do enough, this is how we get our company back up and running.
Right and that's the other thing. Athena, we hadn't talked about Athena until this. She's our basically, I guess you could say, Ares' partner in crime, another Greek god, which is interesting.
Yeah,
particularly when you start delving into the mythology here. Ares is the god of war. And if I remember correctly, no, I'm thinking of Artemis. I'm going to look up Athena really quick to make sure I understand this, because we're using when you start throwing around names like this, you don't just do this willy-nilly. These names have weight.
Definitely.
Serious weight.
Athena,
So,
if I guess correctly, is wisdom and strategy.
Wisdom, according to Wikipedia, she had 3 things she was in charge of, which is interesting. Although usually with these Greek gods, they tend to get very primarily associated, at least in pop culture, with one aspect of what they have. It was wisdom, warfare, and handicraft.
Okay.
So handicraft, so it's craft making.
She is the one that's like,
Weaving.
let's put a recognizer in the real world. No more of these sky light cycles.
Yeah. So we got this Greek thing going on with her. She was probably the most interesting villain in this whole thing because she was carrying out her programming and it ends up biting the main villain in the butt. It's like, you said by any means necessary. Remove obstacles. I am removing an obstacle.
Ooh. When she called his mom an impedance, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was genuinely interesting. And I still ended up frustrated, because now she's flying off the handle. She's not technically going rogue. That's what's interesting about her. She is not going rogue.
No.
She is just using methods that her user, her creator, was not anticipating.
Yeah. As much as I dislike this movie, and I don't know why we keep going back to Superman, Man of Steel, she is Zod. It's I have one directive. What do I do if I can't do that one directive?
But at least here, it's because she's a computer program.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I have been told. You just, didn't specify what I could and couldn't do. You didn't give me any you didn't program ethics into me.
Yeah.
That might have been an interesting thing for her to say. It's just like, you said any means necessary. You didn't program me with ethics.
If she'd have pulled a Data and just removed her emotion chip or something.
I'm just saying that I will admit, in retrospect, that was actually pretty interesting. But, so we probably should have talked about that earlier. And by the way, I know that actress has been getting dragged through the mud because she was in The Acolyte.
Oh,
but I didn't watch The Acolyte. I had, to quote a Godzilla movie title, I had -1 interest in it. Come on. Why aren't you working? There we go. So there you go. But yeah, so yeah, the performances weren't, like I said, weren't quite working. Eve was okay, and then we had comic relief guy who was trying to do esports. That was a little strange. Like Space Paranoids has apparently been rebooted, and now it's an esport. That was kind of funny. And what was it? They were playing Paranoid by Black Sabbath when they started that. It's like, okay. It's a little bit how in Legacy when Sam went to Flynn's arcade and the jukebox came back on and it was playing, and it played Separate Ways by Journey, and there's one other song,
Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics.
Yeah, Sweet Dreams. Yeah, and those started playing. It's like, okay. That was kind of clever. But again, we're grabbing from the original movie. It's kind of nostalgia baiting, but
yeah.
And it's
just to add to one of my columns in the minus tier. What was the point of AJ? The other
Yeah, the
guy in
comic
charge?
relief dude.
Yeah, what was the like Seth?
Oh no.
Yeah, no,
We
the
had,
other
comic
guy.
relief dude was Eve's goofy sidekick, but this guy was AJ was barely in it, and yeah.
Yeah, it was like he was chairman or co-CEO, and so it was like he was the public face. He was the Bob Iger of the board, as it were, but like he didn't bring anything other than showing up for the space paranoids scene, and then we rely on him at the end to hack into Dillinger's systems. I don't know this guy can hack. I don't know that he's a programmer. What the?
Yeah. It's just that's what ends up just like I said. The script is what destroys this movie because it doesn't work as a sequel. It doesn't function all that well as as its own, on its own, because it contradicts itself and it just doesn't feel all that satisfying. And like I said, we're getting all these visual and auditory callbacks to Legacy, but you want to know where the script actually acknowledges Legacy? You get one line in the info dump at the beginning and one picture at the end.
Yeah.
And those, particularly in that info dump, it flies in the face of the point of Legacy. It almost makes Legacy pointless because they say, oh, Sam Flynn resigned as CEO of Encom for personal reasons. Like, that's it? That's all you're giving me? That's it? I mean, I can infer that it probably involves Cora, but that's it? You're writing him off with one line? It's about as bad as when they did the third Transformers movie, even though they spent those first two movies, especially in the second one, getting I think his name was Sam in that one too, if I remember correctly, and the Megan Fox character, I can't remember her name, but getting them together. And then because Megan Fox had a falling out with Michael Bay, he just wrote her out of the second movie and put in a blonde chick who actually was supposed to be a character from the show, but whatever on that. And it just wrote her off with one line. And just like, oh, they broke up and this is Sam's new girlfriend. And I'm like, that's it? No like why they broke up or anything like that. And now we have this blonde who I think might actually be taller than what's his name, which is not a good look.
Yeah, for me that same issue is with the Ted franchise, the talking teddy bear, the Seth MacFarlane one. Ted 1 is a great movie. It's a great comedy, and it is all about how Mila Kunis's character doesn't like her life, and at the end she accepts that she wants the life that she has with Mark Wahlberg, with Ted, and she's completely happy about it. But she can't make the second movie, so they say that they got divorced because she just couldn't take living with Ted anymore. And it's like, but that was her arc. You can't just say like she's abroad or on a business trip or something so we don't have her in the movie.
Yeah. Yep. And then at the end, because Ares decides, I have to understand what it means to be human and understand humans better, because that was this movie's attempt at a thematic statement that ends up just kind of falling flat. Because I know people say that this thing is just nonstop action scenes. It's not nonstop action scenes, but the stuff between the action scenes is less than compelling. And we get to the end where Ares is traveling the world. I know some people have complained about how, he's traveling the world to go see all the little people. I'm like, I didn't take it like that. I just took it as he's out to see the world. And when we're seeing him, when he's writing that postcard to Eve, he happens to be I think it was supposed to be like India or the Middle East or something. It's a third world country. So whatever on that. And he has a photograph of Sam and Cora, which tells me, because we see their faces, and it is, what is it, Ben Edlund or something, like the actor from Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Olivia Wilde.
So they paid for their likenesses, because I know that's how it works. Yeah, if you're gonna use people's likenesses, you have to pay for it. So they paid for it, implying that he's perhaps looking for them. We don't know why, but he's looking for them. And that's it. But we've defeated the purpose of Legacy. The whole point of Legacy was Sam Flynn was technically in charge of the company. It had been passed down to him basically by his dad, but he's an irresponsible 20-something and he doesn't want it. So he just goofs off, occasionally shows up when he has to, and does things like release OSs for free. Just to drive the NCOM board of directors crazy. All right. That is the extent of what he does. And then by reconnecting with his dad, he decides, you know what? I need to be responsible. There's even a short that's technically a sequel to Legacy called The Day After, where he takes even more charge of things. Because the whole point was that Sam learns to be responsible and pick up where his dad left off. And we just throw that out the window.
Yeah. Again, this was the permanence code MacGuffin of this movie.
Yeah, well, and that was the attempt at a thematic statement. It's like, it should really be called the impermanence code. Basically saying, like, if I give you the code, you basically become mortal.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting idea that they barely give any lip service to.
Yeah, I would have liked the idea because they visualize it as a double helix in the code, which is how they illustrated when Cora gets injured in Legacy and Flynn is working on repairing her because she loses an arm. And so Kevin Flynn, I should specify, is looking at her code and is reconstructing it and repairing it. It's a double helix. So when I saw the double helix in the beginning, I thought, oh, did something happen with Cora to where this is her? Like, is that what's left? Especially when they introduced the 29 minutes, I was like, that's why Sam's not here. Like, he lost Cora and now he's just off grid, for lack of a better word.
But then the photograph at the end contradicts that.
Yeah, and then the photograph was just like, nope, sorry.
Yeah. It just all comes unglued. It just all comes unglued, and it doesn't work. But what's frustrating is you can see what could have been, which I think we'll get into. But let me add my PowerPoint to the stage here. So I'm calling out what writers can learn from Tron Ares and how to fix it.
Loves me a PowerPoint.
Yeah, here we go. Although I'm a little annoyed with StreamYard. They used to let you do a screen share of actual PowerPoint. Then they stopped allowing you to do that, for what I can tell. And they want you to actually upload slides. But if you have any sort of extra flourish in the PowerPoint, it just eliminates. If you have special fonts or you embed videos or something into it, won't work at all. So I'm a little annoyed with that, but beyond that, so I just leave these as plain as possible. All right, so lessons that I think writers can learn from Tron Ares. Now, this one I will admit is a little bit unique, but it is something that has become more common in more recent years, and that is you need to remember that you're a steward of a franchise. You are a steward. This is not your thing. You are a steward. You did not create Spider-Man You have been loaned Spider-Man, so don't screw this up. You know, I would even extend that out where if you're working on some sort of a group project with other writers who are all contributing something, this is not entirely yours. Again, you are a steward and you need to be willing to work within what that thing is. And too often we see people trying to take something and make it into what they want it to be, or to make it into something that it's not. And with what I think happened here is they kind of ignored, they basically ignored what made Tron and what people wanted to see. So they could just do whatever they wanted. Because there were points where I felt like I wasn't actually watching a Tron movie. It felt like something else.
Yeah.
Personally.
Definitely. I completely agree with that. You know, this, I can't remember who it was, but they had a great analogy of this is not your sandbox.
Yeah.
You get to play in the sandbox and you get to play with the toys, but this is not your sandbox.
Right. And to give a personal example of this, and I will admit, yes, this is a fan production, but it's run very professionally. But I'm part of Scyther podcasts. They make high quality fan produced audio dramas based on superhero properties. I pitched the idea of doing a prequel origin one shot for Rito, the character I play on Power Rangers, one of the bad guys. And I went out of my way to make sure that I was keeping things consistent inside of what Carl Dutton, who's the showrunner, who started this whole thing, he's the founder of Scyther, what he had been doing. And, you know, I sent him the first draft of the script. I got feedback from it, went back and revised it based on the feedback he gave me. He was mostly happy with it, very impressed with it, but he still had to say, it's like, hey, there's some things, here are these things you need to make sure that, you know, you change. So I went and I did that. But the entire time I was working on that, I was like, remember, you're playing in someone else's sandbox, and be grateful that you get to play in the sandbox.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I think there are too many people, too many writers who are unwilling to do that. I remember when I was in grad school, I was in a fiction writing class, and this was a class made up of both grad students and undergrad. And the professor said that as like our end of semester project, she wanted us to do some sort of a shared project as a class, whether that was we write about, you know, we write in the same setting or the same genre, or it's an anthology, or we take turns writing a chapter in a longer piece or something. Like, it's one of those to do that. I was excited about this because I had done stuff like that before. I really enjoyed it. I think about 2/3 of the class was unwilling to play that ball game, and it baffled me. And it was all because they felt like it would be too limiting. Too limiting? You clearly don't understand how creativity works. That's what I was thinking. I didn't say that too loud because I didn't want to upset people, but that's what I'm thinking. It's like, why? Why would you think that? I don't know. If I really wanted to be mean, I would say it's because they're being selfish, but I'll refrain from that for now. But yeah, I have opinions. And by the way, all of these things that I'm going over, I could easily do an entire video. Even not a whole live stream, like a whole long form live stream, but I could do an entire video talking about each one of these things. The next thing I think writers should learn is you need to respect, use, and follow continuity, but you don't have to be slave to it. And when I say slave, I've seen a few videos that have popped up that I thought this was interesting. It's like the one I saw, this guy said that it's like the opposite of a plot hole, where it's something that doesn't line up and it doesn't make sense. But now we're getting to the point where people are so obsessed with continuity of what came before that everybody keeps going back to it and just keeps rehashing the same thing, keeps going back to that well, and they won't move forward. And you don't want to do that either. That's why I get a little bit tired of, in comic books especially, where they keep doing all these ridiculous retcons related to past stories. Stop it. We don't need you to keep mucking around with that all the time. Move forward. But also, like I said, respect what came before, use it when you can, and make sure that you are consistent with it. Now, I will admit, there are times where I am willing to grant an exception because, let's be honest, there have been some decisions in, say, comic books where they decide, you know what, we don't like that anymore, so never happened. And we'll throw in something in the narrative that basically erases it. I would be okay with that. Looking at you, Marvel, please undo one more day. I'm never going to let that go until you fix it. That is one of my favorite whipping boys. If I ever, it would never happen. Never, ever happen, mostly because I have more talent than, in my pinky than their entire writing staff. But I said it. But if I ever got to write for Marvel, and they'd be like, "Oh, so you love Captain America?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, no, that's really cool. Well, we might let you write Captain America." No, I want to write Spider-Man. Why? So I can fix your mistake. I'm going to do what the readers actually want. I'm going to undo one more day, you mother truckers.
See,
I never let me do it. They've never let me do it.
I would agree to write Captain America, but my story would be that he punches Mephisto until he changes one more day. And no matter what hero they give me, that's what's going to happen.
Actually, that would be amazing. Actually,
Wonder Man, the actor.
Captain America. Captain America somehow shows up, and we're calling it Mephisto's realm, whatever. And Mephisto's like, "Oh, Steve Rogers, I never expected to see you in hell." And then he's like, "I came here for one reason. What's that?" "Well, you look a little bit like a certain mustache man. So give Peter his marriage back."
In terms of following continuity, though, sometimes there's a bit of writing that you can do where it sounds so good and you're like, "This is great, I've thought of everything and this is perfect for the character," but then somebody will remind you that it doesn't fit continuity, so you can't use it. There's a great story that Sam Witwer tells of when he was just starting out doing Clone Wars. He was brought in to be the son for the Mortis trilogy, and he was at a table read, and Matt Lanter's Anakin Skywalker is talking to the ghost of Shmi, saying, "I've got a wife now. I'd love for you to meet her. I wish you could." And Sam Witwer stops the table read, looks at Dave Filoni, and says, "We got to change that line because they've met already. They've had dinner together in episode 1." And Filoni completely overthought it and had to rewrite that line.
Yeah. But their fans would have lost their minds over that. Let's be honest. Yeah, but it's because some of them, like I said, they're a little bit slavish to it. So, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But, there are too many people who just throw it out. Nick, number 3, I would say be consistent with the rules you set up. Unless you have a justifiable reason to break it. I think we've belabored that enough already with our discussion of the movie. Number 4, avoid weak villains. Because I think that's one of the things that happens here. Again, I feel like when you get to the end, and we get more nostalgia baiting with the end, because Julian escapes to the other grid, and I'm like, to the Dillinger grid, and I'm like, that's going to be sequel baiting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I called it, and they make it look like he's going to become Sark, who was the grid villain played by David Warner in the original movie. It wasn't. Well, yeah. So it was his dad. It was because his grandfather. So I'm like, okay.
That was the part of the movie where, even though it was the mid-credit scene, I was like, well, we're not seeing that play out.
Yeah, and I'm just like, really? So I think the idea is they want him to start off as the petulant child and then become the super evil, scary bad guy later, but it's the same one that we saw before. So I'm just like, wait, how does that work? How? Right, because I thought Sark was like, I don't know, like there's just some things about it that don't make sense because it doesn't make sense within the rules. Because in the original movie, they were not the programs were not literally the users, but they took on the visage of the users because they're creations of those users. And Sark was a creation of Edward Dillinger. So why are we making the grandson literally Sark? It's just weird. It's weird, but that seems like that's what they wanted to do, But in the meantime, we have I feel like an undermined villain in this movie. And if your villain is not good, it doesn't matter how good your hero is. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say a story's only as good as the villain. I think that's a little overplayed, but at the same time, your hero needs a worthy adversary to really show how good of a hero he is.
Yes.
So number 5, write good dialogue. This movie has some serious issues with dialogue. It's incredibly inconsistent. I can't really think of a memorable line that wasn't already said in the previous movie.
There was one good dialogue line that Ares has at the end, where he's talking to the Kevin Flynn program, hologram, whatever it is, ghost in the machine, and he's talking about comparing Mozart and Depeche Mode. And had this man been without feeling and being confused about human emotion throughout the movie up to this point, it would have made so much more impact on me when he says Mozart is more important to the 20th century history of music, but Depeche Mode, I prefer it. I don't know why. Call it a feeling.
Yeah. Again, it's trying, but it's not committing to the bit. That's the frustrating part. It's not committing to the bit. And I this is a controversial one, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. People have been talking about Eve as being a girl boss archetype. I will admit she's far from being the most egregious example of that. I wasn't bothered by her all that much. Although, admittedly, the ending of this movie makes you wonder, like, why are we sequel baiting when it sounds like you've basically created paradise? Because her whole thing is that she wants the permanence code so she can take these digital versions of things like apple trees or whatever and make them permanent in the real world. And then there's this news montage at the end where they basically say, like, yeah, we've ended world hunger. Okay. So what would be the point of another movie?
Yeah. It's like packaging.
We've created paradise. So now what? So some people say, like, oh, look at her. She fixes all the world's problems at the end. I'm like, it feels more like just a logical conclusion of what they were setting up. And it's more, for me, it's less a problem with the character, more a problem with the concept, with the idea. But, generally speaking, girl boss archetype, not something people want, not something people want to see, and is generally a terrible character. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Unless you want to make a villain. If you want to make a girl boss a villain, that's fine.
Oh, man. If Julian Dillinger was a female, just going mad with power until it like became overwhelming.
Actually, that would work. I think
like just take the edge of Athena and give it to
Oh,
A female Julian Dillinger.
a Julia Dillinger.
A Julia Dillinger. Yes.
Ooh, I think I could get behind that actually. that would be interesting. And it would change the dynamic with Elizabeth. That was the mother's name. That would change the dynamic there a bit. Actually, change it a lot.
Yep.
Where you could even throw in some like animosity where it's like, yeah, your father wanted a son and he got you. And then she's like, you know what? I'm going to prove all of you wrong. And I don't care if dad is dead. I'm going to show that dad was wrong about me.
Yeah. You can even,
that is compelling right there.
you could even tie in the resentment of you wanted Ed Jr. to be the head of our company, but he left and joined the competition. So you're stuck with me and we're doing things my way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, that's already more interesting right there. And then finally, commit to your ideas and concepts, which this movie does inconsistently, or it broaches ideas and then TikTok brains its way out of them. I'm like, no, you needed to land here for a bit. Unless it's the end where it's just like, we've ended world hunger with 3D printing. What?
Yeah. Still don't understand how the digital bit gives you sustenance, but okay, sure.
Yeah, that's a little bit confusing. I mean, does it make me weird that it's easier for me to believe that we can make digital people, quote unquote, real than to take inanimate objects, a tank, an airplane, or something like that? I'm willing to believe that. But as soon as you start inventing digital vegetables, I'm like, that is a bridge too far. I don't believe that can actually work.
What
people
honestly,
and inanimate objects, yes, not digital food.
Yeah, what got me in that realm was Ares changing clothes at the end, because I can get Sam being all flesh and blood and getting his suit in Legacy digitized onto him, but when you're a program, why on earth are you being programmed to have skin apart from the neck up? So when he's out of armor, he's got like flesh hands and you can see his chest, and I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it just starts getting really weird after a while. And it's not like replicators in Star Trek, which they throw in some things. It's a little bit hand wavy, but they're at least taking things that are established in the world and just saying like, okay, using computers and transporter technology, we're able to synthesize food in basically an unlimited supply. But they make it a part of the world because people are like, yeah, it's not the same as real food. So they call it out at points. So they say like, yeah, there's a drawback to it. Nobody starves, but it doesn't taste as good. It's not the real thing. So that when we have episodes where people are like, we have actual real food, they get excited. It's a special occasion.
Yeah.
Here, nope. It's just, we solved world hunger. And I was like, are you 12?
Yeah. and it raises the question.
Or a beauty pageant contestant. It's like, it's like, well, what do you hope to do? It's like, I want to make world peace. I'm like, you're going to make world peace by being pretty? I mean,
yeah. The big overanalyzation for me was, okay, let's say you stuff your face with this digital 3D printed food. Before the permanence code in 29 minutes, does all of that you've just attempted to digest just go away?
No.
Are you instantly hungry again?
The tangerine you just ate 20 minutes later dereses in your stomach. Oh man.
Like
that sounds like a way to assassinate somebody.
Yeah, we created
you figure out, like, you make like you make 3D printed, I don't know, coffee and give it to the president of the United States and then figure out how to inject the something that undoes the permanence code so that 20 minutes later after he drinks it, it dereses and I don't know, does a number on his innards. Because we don't know what that stuff does.
Nope.
So, oh man. Oh, that sounds diabolical. But look at us. You know, we're too smart for this movie. We're going to logical conclusions here. But anyway. All right. So here's how I propose. Like if I was sent this script and I was a script doctor, sometimes it's a job I would love to have. This is how I would break this down and put it back together. All right, strap in. First off, Sam Flynn is forced. Here's the thing. I'm going to preface this. I'm not throwing everything in this movie out. So, like, if these characters and this story is something that you are committed to, that's fine. Here's how I propose to make it make more sense while still making it a proper sequel to Legacy. So work with me here. Sam Flynn is forced out of NCOM by Edward Dillinger Jr. So we're going to bring Cillian Murphy back and the board, and the personal reasons for his resignation is just the public explanation. That's the cover. So it won't start off with Sam and Cora, but we have a much better explanation for why. Now, I didn't entirely think through why they would probably kick him out. You could probably just do something as simple as, we don't like you. We don't care what your dad said. We don't want you in charge anymore. And Edward Dillinger is like, I want to be actually the one in charge. So it's a power grab. All right. Next up, Edward Dillinger Jr. replaces Elizabeth Dillinger. And at best, she has a minor role. Otherwise, I would just cut her out and replace her with Edward Dillinger. He's there instead of Elizabeth. And I would officially make Julian his son. So it almost becomes like a dark version of Legacy, if you stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Where he's grooming Julian to replace him as, you know, either as the head of NCOM, or maybe he and his son started this offshoot and he's grooming him to be in charge of Dillinger Systems, something like that. All right. And you really lean into this is Julian's villain origin story, but I would make Edward Dillinger Jr. more of a villainous presence. And Eve Kim and her sister, that was a big thing. We didn't talk about the sister, but she kept talking about her sister for the first like 30 minutes of this movie, and then she kind of disappeared. They were members of the NCOM board who have secretly gone rogue. So they're working against Edward Dillinger. I will bet this is not entirely perfect. I haven't thought everything through. This would probably take some refinement, but this is what I'm proposing. The heroes and villains discover the secret of the permanence that they discovered that the secret. This was the big one for me, as I thought about this after I walked out of the movie. The heroes and villains discovered that the secret of the permanence code lies with Cora's unique ISO composition. So that's how you keep this bit, and it's not contradictory. The reason why she can exist outside of the grid is because she's special. Her species, so to speak, her race is special, which is something that Kevin Flynn said in the last movie. They're special. They're how did he put it? Like, a bioelectronic jazz, man. Like, they just happened, so her composition is mysterious and special. She is the secret. I'm basically saying turn Korra into the MacGuffin. And it becomes a race to find her and Sam first. So like that little thing that they're kind of implying at the end with the photograph, that becomes this movie. We leave out all the stuff about experimenting, making apple trees and all that. We get rid of all of that. And it's like, find her. That's the secret. You could even probably work that a little bit into why Sam didn't fight too hard after he got basically forced out. And he's like, I've got Korra. I'm going to stick with her. There's a lot of stuff that you can make this work. Ares captures Korra. So we're going to keep him the bad guy at the beginning and takes her to Dillinger's grid. He still betrays Dillinger, but this time he's trying to keep Korra safe, not Eve Kim. The villains want to rip the code out of Korra, which would derez her, again, which what they want to do to Eve Kim. But Sam says his father knows how to extract the code safely. So we're keeping that bit. Ares and Sam go to Flynn's arcade and travel. That's a typo. My apologies. And travel to the legacy grid, not the original grid. It's the legacy grid to meet the real Kevin Flynn. Although that's a long shot because they're like, he's supposed to be dead. And here's the biggest problem. We didn't talk about this. This is a Tron movie without Tron. I'm putting Tron in this. This is one of the biggest things that this has to be in here. So we go back to the legacy grid and we find out Tron is in charge of it now. He, because he broke away from the Rinsler brainwashing that Clue did to him. And now that Clue is gone, he's in charge. He filled the power vacuum in the years since then.
Yes, I very much like that idea.
Yeah. I think unfortunately my slide repeated itself. Yeah. And meanwhile, I unfortunately repeated one of my slides. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, Eve and company, while this is all going on, they infiltrate Dillinger HQ, not Encom. They infiltrate Dillinger HQ so they can rescue Korra and destroy the Dillinger grid. So that gives those characters something to do. And then Ares and Tron make contact with Kevin Flynn. I haven't fully thought out what that would look like or what that would mean, but we've established in Legacy that Kevin Flynn's basically a god, on the grid, So I was just saying he would exist in some form, but it's the actual Kevin Flynn, not a firewall or whatever the heck that thing was in this one. And he tells them how to safely extract what they need from Korra. And then they return to the real world. Then Athena kills Edward Dillinger Jr., leaving his unprepared son to finish everything. And then Ares, Tron, and Sam fight and elude Athena and her minions on their way to Dillinger HQ, so we can still get we can get the chase scene with the recognizer and all of that stuff. It can still be there, but now it's Ares, Tron, and Sam. And Tron and Ares are operating on the 29-minute time limit. That's still a problem. So we've got a ticking time clock and a bunch of bad guys coming after him. And then the heroes and villains all converge on Dillinger HQ with the time running out. And then Eve implants the permanence code into Ares, but Tron refuses. Tron doesn't want to stay in the real world. He wants to go back to the grid. because because he has to. That's where his responsibilities are right now. It's taking care of that grid with the help of Kevin Flynn in some form or another. Originally, I thought she would give it to both of them. Like, no, Tron wants to go back.
Yeah.
And then Tron dereses back to the legacy grid, which is something that's established in this movie. When you derez in the real world, you just respawn back in that grid. It's not a pleasant process, but you respawn back over there. Okay. So now Tron has been removed from the finale, which theoretically means our new character has to really step up. Because we don't have the original security program that is Tron there to help him. And then, the finale would probably play out like it did before. And then Tron continues to rule the legacy grid with counsel from the ghost of Kevin Flynn. And he'd rather be there than in the real world, like I said. Sam reclaims control of Encom with Eve's help, because she's a board member. And Cora is given a human identity. My thinking is that she would end up living, like her and Sam have already been living in secret, but now they're back in the public. So now she has assumed a human identity, even as an ISO. Again, kind of setting up the possibility of doing more later. And then Ares, under the tutelage of Cora, travels the world to learn what it means to be human. We're keeping that, but now Cora is going to be involved with his learning because she's been living in the real world for 10, 15 years at this point. So she has plenty of experience already. And then Julian, after escaping to the Dillinger grid, we're going to keep that bit. Here's the MCP, the actual MCP. It's implied in this version of the movie, but we're going to make it readily apparent this time. So it's the villain of the original movie. The MCP is whispering about invading all of Kevin Flynn's grids and the real world with him as his new Sark. So again, we're setting up stuff to happen in the future. The advertising for this movie seemed to make it look like it was going to be an invasion from the grid in the real world, and it ended up not being that. I am setting up the possibility that is what is going to happen. The MCP is going to finish what he started, but now he's not going to just stop with the Pentagon or whatever. He's going after. Now he wants to go after everything that belongs to Kevin Flynn. It's personal now. So he's going to go after everything. Because I think there was talk in the original movie about how the MCP was able to infiltrate things because of how connected computers were getting. And I'm like, just imagine if the MCP had the internet. There wouldn't have been time to stop him. And that could be a thing that you could do in a future movie. It could be, how do I connect this server, this Dillinger grid? How do I get that online? Because if the MCP is in here and we give the MCP the internet, oh boyser, that is not going to be good for anybody. And then it could turn into a thing where it's like, well, we need to get the other grids connected to the internet. So then you would basically end up having this massive war on the internet. Like there's your Tron sequel. You can call it like Grid Wars or something like that, or Net Wars or something. It's all of these grids connecting to the internet and all these programs going to war on the internet, trying to stop the MCP with his new Sark in the form of Julian.
Uh, ooh. I agree with Jake in the comments here. Give us the Marchand cut. That sounds so good.
Like I said, I
Especially,
do think it probably would need a little bit more refinement. It's also probably more I'm looking at this and I'm like, I could potentially see this being very expensive.
yeah,
But so they might just shut it down based purely on budget considerations. But at the very least, you could Disney, come talk to me. I will write you a novel. I will write you a Tron Ares novel that supplants the movie as canon, and then write you some more sequels. Like, I will write you a trilogy of novels, starting with a superior version of Tron Ares that leads to the Net Wars or something. Where the MCP is taking over the internet, and we have programs. We're going to have like these Lord of the Rings level, battles in the internet, with all these interconnected grids. Like, we'll really lean into, the AI and the technology and, and all of that.
it flows so well. The characterization of the MCP is spot on. Because we both have the first Tron movie. There's clearly an ego with him, particularly with Flynn, because when he de-reses Flynn, he's like, remember all those chess matches I played against you? And Flynn, I think, comments, I won a lot of them. And so he's like, I can't have you foiling my plans. And that's why he gets de-resed.
It's like, you've got all this stuff going on, and then they're like, we need Tron. We need Tron to help us. And that's like, well, maybe you have characters in the real world, or like, we need to connect these grids and get them on the internet so that Tron can help us, or these other characters in the other grids, they can all come help us. And then they get so desperate, they're like, where's Kevin? We need Kevin's help. So maybe they're trying to find Kevin to get him to help him. But maybe Kevin is like, he's like Yoda now. He's like, I don't have to fight.
Yeah.
The rest of you need to do that. And then we have Ares and Sam and Korra and like all of these characters from the past movies. It can turn into like Avengers Endgame for Tron. And we can introduce new villains, but it's all being masterminded by Master Control. But Master Control wasn't completely destroyed. Some version of him survived, and he has been sitting in some server someplace, and he's just been festering. And now he's, I don't know, quote unquote, evolved to the point where, he's developing human characteristics like resentment.
Well,
now it's like, oh, Kevin Flynn is dead. I will destroy everything he built, and I'll take over the world.
There is that epilogue scene that they put on the Blu-ray for on the Blu-ray for
you were saying
there's a epilogue scene. They have like 3 epilogues for Tron Legacy on the Blu-ray. So you got the day after, you have Alan meeting Ram, or Ram's user, and wondering why Flynn called them Tron and Ram. And then you have Ed Dillinger Jr. having a chat conversation with someone he calls Dad, but it's voicing is the Flynn boy going to be a problem like the last one? We will deal with it later. End of line.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, just to prove I could do it, was like, here you go.
Perfect.
Yeah. I have vocal effects on my new soundboard now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But no. Edwin, you've mentioned this before in the chat. I just want to highlight this. No one remembers Tron Uprising? Well, that tells my age. I've seen Tron Uprising. It was good. It should have gotten another season.
Yeah.
I also want a Blu-ray. I'm sick of the fact that it's in Disney Plus jail. Give me a Blu-ray.
I also appreciate the little nod to it in Legacy when Flynn is saying, there's uprisings and rebellions all around. We're hoping they'll take Clue out from within. And
Yeah,
that's why he's not
I
going.
think they used that as the setup for it because Tron Uprising was made after Legacy.
Right. But yeah, I love your treatment. That was really good. I want that movie.
Yeah. By the way, I threw all of that together in maybe an hour and a half. An hour? Actually, it was probably an hour and a half for that and the 7 writer lessons.
Dang. See, I just spitballed stuff like just off the top of my head to my wife, and like none of it makes sense. It was like, okay, but like Tron could come back in this one, and they could do this, and maybe Sam and like my main thing that I would have done personally, just from my own style, the reason Sam and Cora are missing is because Sam took Kevin's disc at the end of Legacy, and that was what shut down Clue, allegedly from the outside. I would have written it that he tried to make his own grid, and with Cora being an ISO and him trying to use his dad's disc, they create another being that he would look to as a daughter, but he can't get her out of the grid to be with them for longer than 29 minutes. And it's because I like that timer that we put on digital beings. But Cora has already been established as being able to be past that.
Yeah.
So if we take another being and say, this is personal for Sam, like, especially with the time difference in the grid, this is his daughter. He wants to be able to hold her in the real world, and he can't.
See, there's something that could be in a sequel. You could do that. They had a child, and you either say like she has to exist in the grid, or just the fact that they had a child.
Yeah.
Like I half human, half ISO. Like that's wild right there. Like you start playing around with that, Yeah. And just imagine if they had a child. I love the idea of them having a child. Imagine them going back to the Legacy grid with the child. And she, I don't know which, if boy or girl, the child gets to meet his grandfather.
Yes. Yeah. I just, in my little dribbles of it, I called her Tekka just because it seemed kind of, it fit. Tron Electronics Tekka.
Yeah.
And I would have put Tron in as if the producers come up to us and say, Ares has to be the main character of this, then ripping out the MCP protocol and giving it to Athena would render him incomplete, and going to a previous grid and possibly finding Tron's disc would integrate Tron into him. So he kind of develops a conscience. And so Tron, I'm picturing the scene of you fight against your programming, and Athena goes to hit him and he blocks it. He goes, no, I fight for the users.
Yes.
And makes a comeback.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted that. Nobody said that. That was a line that was in the original movie. It was said in Legacy in a nice moment too, because it's the moment when Rinsler makes the turn and starts to embrace being Tron again. Spoilers for Legacy, but he embraces being Tron again, and he says, even kind of reluctantly, I fight for the users, and then he goes back. That wasn't in this movie.
No. Nor was the word Tron ever said. They
should have just called it Ares, but they have to put the brand on there.
There was I would have had Ares and Sam in conflict, but also kind of trying to be on the same side. And I wrote this little scene up just on my iPad of Ares trying to explain that he's trying to help because this is a phenomenon of the grid. And while Cora's listening and trying to figure out what's going on, Sam is just in the background going 28 minutes, 45 seconds, 26 minutes, 20 seconds. Just counting down to when he dereses.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's so much, like even that, like you can start filling that in. You could have character conflict. You could have Sam be like, who the heck are you, Ares? Why should I trust you? And he's like, well, because I saved your wife or whatever. I mean, maybe we could just say like, yeah, Cora and Sam are quote unquote married now or something like that. You know, is like, I saved your wife. Is that enough for you to trust me? You know, or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's so much potential in that, you know, and we can make a proper sequel while still introducing Ares and, you know, all of these other things, but we can take the ideas from Legacy and integrate them in here. Like that was one of the first things that came to my mind when I walked out of the movie. It's just like Cora could have been the secret. The 29 minutes thing, because we've never seen a grid character leave except for Cora. That's how you account for it. She's special. We need to find
her. But we got this.
We got this. Like I said, Disney, I know you're watching this. If you don't want to make a movie, I'll write a novel. I'll call it Tron Ares 2.0. And I'll put a little forward at the beginning that says, this is the new canon version of the movie. This is the start of a trilogy. You will get a trilogy of novels, and they will be spectacular.
Yes. Honestly, I'm thinking about making an audio drama, like Tron the audio drama.
Oh, that would be fun, actually.
And very cost effective.
Yeah, very cost effective. You know what? Yeah, there you go. It's like, hey, Disney, throw me a smaller budget. By the way, good night, Jake. Thanks for coming by.
Good night, Jake.
Give Ares 5 stars so we can get a sequel. That's funny. But no, yeah, there you go. Disney, give me a substantially smaller budget than a movie, and I will make you a spectacular audio drama. Audio dramas are a thing now. Marvel's making audio dramas, and you know, DC's making audio dramas. Come on, jump on board for that. It'll be cost effective. It'll be great.
You can call it.
You know, I will make Tron popular, and you can justify another movie. You probably have to make it animated, but you know, because the actors are getting too old. But
We'll have an audio drama called Tron Synthesizer.
ooh, Tron Synthesizer. I like that. Tron Synthesizer. That's good. And then, you know, we'll build to Tron the Net Wars or something like that, or the Net War. You know, because I think that's what it should be. It should be Lord of the Rings on the internet with programs.
And
Epic battles and
Tron's disc is the One Ring.
Ooh, or at the very least, it's something that they need. You know,
that necklace thing that Sam has at the end of Legacy.
Yeah,
is like the kill code.
We have to. We start making. We have to have magical artifacts. Come on, that's just how this works. Yeah. I know how fantasy stories work. I've played video games. Magical artifacts. Well, there you go. It's probably a bunch of pipe dreams, but I would love to see it happen. This is a franchise that I do think has potential. I don't think it has the audience that Disney wishes it does. But I think under the right care, I think you can nurture it into something unique.
Yeah. So much potential, man.
Disney's not interested in that anymore.
And like it's not to say the first Tron movie is visually it's impressive, given how they managed to do it in 82. It's visually impressive, but Legacy is the one that gives you the world and a far more expansion of what could be of this franchise. And yet somehow all three of these movies are snake bit when it comes to box office.
Well, like I said, with the original movie, it's because it was too far ahead of its time. And then it developed its following afterward. Once the rest of the world caught up with it. And then people started really appreciating the artistry of it. Which is how they were able to justify even doing a Tron Legacy. Although Tron existed in the interim as things like, and I saw a YouTube video where this guy talked about it. So like, oh yeah, I do remember those. I completely forgot those existed. Like there was a Tron computer game. It was an FPS that is eerily similar to Legacy. Because it's about the son of Sam Flynn going to the grid. It's kind of wild, but and then there were comic books that were spun off from that, and and such. Plenty of video games. So it's not like Tron was completely gone. But that was all the stuff in the interim, and then we got Legacy, and
which all stemmed from a tech demo that they had shown at a convention that was a TR2N. And it was just like, hey, look at all the visual effects we can do nowadays with our movies. And everyone was like, but when is it coming out?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And they even were like, oh, this was just we're talking stages. This is just a demo of effects.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are Tron rides at a couple of the Disney parks. So there's interest. But what you have to do is you have to properly manage the budgeting for this based on how much interest you actually have. So something like a novel, an audio drama, an animated series, an animated movie would probably be a much safer bet and investment. Because you don't have to dump a gazillion dollars into it. I'm just saying, Disney, come talk to me. I can make it happen.
We're right here, Disney.
We're right here. We're right here. We got more talent than all of than most of your writers put together. There's just two dudes from Indiana. All right, two dudes from Indiana.
Bioelectric jazz, man.
Bioelectric jazz, man. Yeah, two dudes from Indiana sounds like the title of a podcast.
The last thing both of us need is another podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, it just sounds like something like, it sounds like a Gabfest podcast. That is a genre of podcast. Just people who get together and they just start talking. They talk for 2 hours about whatever they want. Doesn't matter how tangential it gets, and they just throw it up on the internet. I'm like,
I'm down. I'm up for it, but
I don't need to. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I got enough as it is. But anyway, to end this very Midwestern goodbye, thank you once again, Rob, for suggesting this and coming on here and doing this. It's been great fun, and I get to throw some more cool stuff like this out there into the ether and see if anybody notices. If someone steals this idea and makes it happen, I will be okay with that. I would rather do it, but go ahead and steal it.
We now have video evidence that it's your idea, and we have video permission saying it's okay to steal.
I probably shot myself in the foot right there, but at least give me story credit, okay? And a little bit of money. Yeah, give me story credit and $10,000, and I'll be happy or something. I don't know. But anyway, Rob, where can the peoples find you?
Well,
for those who are watching on my side of things.
For those of you watching on Nathan's lovely channel, you can find me on the Power Chamber YouTube channel, soon to be a returning podcast. We're going to be looking at Power Rangers Mighty Morphin Season 3 coming up. I put up a short explaining why I'm not finishing Season 2 on the podcast proper. They can also follow me on Instagram at RobBuckVO. I am a voice actor. And you can also find me on the Scyther Fantasy Wrestling channel. It's a side hustle of Scyther, where I am the voice of Cody Rhodes, Gold Dust, Dustin Rhodes, and their father, the American Dream, Dustin Rhodes.
So you just do the whole family.
Yep. I lucked into that one.
Fun fact. Cody Rhodes' theme song was made by a band from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah. It's what we love here. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start singing it now, but now I'll say.
Well, now that you reminded me you're a voice actor, I'm like, I may have to talk about some future projects.
I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm.
You can also hear me on the newest episode of the Power Rangers audio drama if you listen really carefully to the background.
And also that Rito special I did. If you listen to those crowd chants.
Yep, and
you're in there somewhere.
You can also find my two-part interview I did with Nathan on the Rito Origin episode over at the Power Chamber YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was going to say you're just skipping the rest of season 2, going straight to season 3, which means my boy is going to be showing up.
Yep. Gonna have to give him a call later.
I was going to say I'm expecting invitations.
Absolutely. And for my end, Nathan, where can they find you?
NathanJSMarchand.com. That's my author website, which will have links to all the pertinent socials where you can find me on places like Facebook, Twitter, and all that. And it's my professional page, not, the Worlds of Nathan Marchand, preferably. I don't need a bunch of strangers trying to get my attention on my personal Facebook. I'd rather not do that. So for the author side of things, that's where you need to go. You can also check out my podcast. And by the way, my author channel has stuff about all of my books and upcoming books. I'm hoping to have a new short story collection out before the end of the year. Hopefully my sister will have the time and the health to get that cover made for me. I'm going to do a photo cover for it. But the name of the book will be The Worlds of Nathan Marchand, Volume 2, Tales of the Lost and Lonely.
I like it.
Yeah. They're all literary stories, by the way. They're not, the one is kind of genre, but otherwise they're mostly literary stories. So a bunch of unpublished stuff that has just been sitting in my computer. I'm like, I need to put this out there. I need to be in a habit of putting out a new book every year if I can. So this is an easy way to do it. Just get a bunch of old stuff and throw it out there. And then check out my flagship podcast, The Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast seeking entertainment and enlightenment through tokusatsu, especially if you enjoy film appreciation and things like kaiju and Japanese cinema, particularly Japanese like science fiction and fantasy cinema. You'll be right at home there. And then kind of pertinent to to Rob's show, that is Henshin Power V3, a podcast where 3 friends have 3 minutes to talk about tokusatsu. It is a spiritual successor to both Henshin Men and the Power Trip, hence why it's Henshin Power V3. So if you enjoy transforming superhero television, give this one a listen. Our gimmick, which we borrowed from another podcast that apparently is coming back. I thought they were done, but it sounds like they might be coming back. It was called Saved by the Belial. Where's the rim shot? I'm still not used to my new setup. Anyway, need to refine this. But anyway, so we talk about 5 to 10 episodes of television per podcast episode, but we only have 3 minutes to talk about each one.
It's efficient.
just like
I
Ultraman.
like it.
So, yeah, give all those a listen, and hopefully I'll be cranking out some more stuff here. I would love to do some more, short form videos and at least one live stream like this, to, keep some stuff going on the channel,
Yeah.
So, if you enjoy hearing me talk about stories, go read my stories. I put my money where my mouth is. I swear. Because there's audio drama segments on the Monster Hunter Film Vault. Oh, yes. And I definitely need to mention this. I am also a member of the stable of actors for Scyther Inc. Productions, Scyther podcast. I'm hoping to branch out and do more than just Scyther. But for now, that's where I am at. And you can hear me as Rito on Power Rangers, the audio drama. And of all people, Deadpool on X-Men, the audio drama. Although I've only appeared once, I'm trying to get more. Never in my life would I have thought that I would be asked to play Deadpool, let alone do it well. Because boy, howdy, did people like that. They have been asking me to play Deadpool for them. Hot dang. And then I'm Johnny Storm, baby, on Avengers, the audio drama, when the Avengers crossover with the Fantastic Four. Which means a certain scene in Deadpool and Wolverine was uniquely surreal for me. So there you go. I think that's all of my important stuff.
I missed the shameless self-promotion.
Shameless self-promotion. It's on I still do it on the podcast. Do I have to? Does it have to migrate over here now too?
Yes, quite.
Quite. I've had like everything I do. Like Ratmaster has migrated to all of my podcasts now, and just probably should have played it tonight. With some of the things we were getting into.
I appreciate you letting me borrow Ratmaster for that episode of the Power Chair.
Ratmaster activated. May as well get it on there. On here, it's somewhere. There you go. Your life is now complete.
I can de-res happy now. And we're back on topic, baby.
I need that on a t-shirt. I can de-res happy now. And only certain people will get that, but the right people will get that.
Exactly.
It's kind of the best kind. All right. Anyway, thanks everybody, and hope to see you around somewhere on the internet, and or in real life. I'll be at Tabletop Adventure Con of Warsaw, Indiana this weekend, helping out a friend in the vendor hall, and I will be paneling at MadCon in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So come say hi if you're in the area. See ya.